Three, two, one. All right, Derek. Well, welcome back to Mayor's Monday again. Welcome back to politics. You've had a lot going on up there in Merrill over the last few weeks, and you know, I don't know if you want to call them fireworks a while back, but you had that little, we'll say, a dust up with your city administrator up there. At the end of the meeting, though, I think we kind of all got the sense that you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be getting along, pulling in the same direction for Merrill. Just kind of give us an idea how things have gone since then, and what it's been like up there at City Hall.
Dave's a really professional guy, and we. I don't want to say it's like nothing happened, but I don't think it's majorly affected our working relationship at all. Things kind of just seem how they were from day one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we got that sense that maybe some of these grievances were things that had to be aired out. Maybe some things like the way he was interacting with people in the community, or the way others had stories about that. And so was this maybe an instance where it was kind of good to finally get those things out in the open, so they're not just bubbling beneath the surface?
I think so, and I had talked about those grievances before the election, and I made it part of my platform that I would be addressing this situation. Once I got in, I was asked by a few people to wait 6 months. Don't just right out the bat try and take care of all this stuff, kind of get to know the land and everything. And I didn't make it 6 months. I think it's been 3 or 4. But it just felt like the time where, let's get it over with and move past this. Instead of waiting 2 more months, I think he was kind of waiting for it to be brought up, because it was a promise during my campaign. So yeah, now everything's known. He knows how I feel. I know a bit about how he felt about it, and we can just move forward.
And again, move forward with a lot of these projects that you've, again, promised during your campaign, a lot of things that you're starting to put the wheels in motion towards as well. I mean, things like, the skate park in Merrill, which is something that's been discussed for a while. You seem to be getting a little bit of traction on.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the subcommittee. There's a special skate park committee that's a subcommittee of the Parks and Rec Commission, and it's made up of 3 young skateboarders, young adults, a youth pastor in Merrill that runs Ott's Garage, Justin Novitsky. He opens up this youth center that they have to skateboarding in the winter months and such. They have little ramps and stuff, and so he's had experience for many years now with all sorts of skaters. And then 2 representatives from the Parks and Rec Commission volunteered to be on this committee. So it's I think the 2 Parks and Rec representatives and Justin have really listened quite intently to what these skaters want. Dan, the Parks and Rec director, he has been doing a really good job of encouraging them to say what they feel needs to be said. They've done a great job going out and getting, kind of telling other skaters what's going on and getting their feedback and bringing it to the committee. So in the past, I think it's only been around 3 months, they've moved pretty quickly. They have already made a recommendation for a location, and that was one of the 3 steps that I had kind of laid out I want the committee to look at. Pick a location, pick a design, and then look at funding options and recommend all those things to the Parks and Rec Commission. So far, they're done with step 1. It's now up to the Parks and Recreation Commission to decide whether to move forward with that nomination, or if they want to maybe call a public hearing and get more info. I like the pace that it's moving at, so I'm hoping that if anyone feels they want a public hearing, that they just come out and have their voice heard during the public comment period of the next Park and Rec Commission, because not that I don't want a public hearing, but I like how quickly things are moving.
Yeah,
with that.
because this is one of the things that you and I talked about the last time you were in here back in, I believe it was May, was you just want more people to get outside in Merrill.
Yeah.
More people to get outside, more things to do up there, because you do have a beautiful city. I mean, the few times I've been up there, I mean, the City of Parks moniker fits it very nicely. It is a very nice downtown area. But if you give people a reason to get outside, or give people a reason to kind of get out and interact, you're going to completely change the energy up in that city.
And the skate park as it is now, it's not the greatest skate park in the world, but it's used so much. And I think that we need to kind of encourage the energy that is brought to that skate park, because it's just great seeing kids, even if they're just standing around and watching. It's great seeing them outdoors and, being with their peers. And the location that's chosen now, Streeter Square, it's a central area. It's right on 3rd Street. It's just uphill from the downtown area. I think that's really gonna bring some young energy into the downtown area.
And I know that's one of the things that you had kind of campaigned on. Another thing that it's come up here recently, not something you necessarily campaigned on, but I'm sure it's something that as a young politician you've had to educate yourself on pretty quick, and that's the Wisconsin dark store rules and dark store laws. Give us an idea, because I know Merrill has added their name to the list of cities that are going to have a non-binding referendum on this come November. So I'm sure, again, this is something you've probably had to dive into pretty quickly.
Yeah, I believe it was brought to the P&F committee by our finance director, because she's really educated in just how much it hurts the cities when you have one of the largest businesses, a big box store. They help the community by paying a large chunk of taxes, and when they hire lawyers and challenge the assessment and get their property value really lowered, that tax burden's then shifted onto the residents in the city. And I don't think any of the big box stores are, well, I can't say any of them. There are ones that have been hurting, but they can definitely pay their fair share, I feel. And I think a lot of residents will agree with that. Really, we just want the legislature to know how much support or for or against legislation trying to close this loophole is going to have. The council, I think we'd all vote, I would assume all vote unanimously to close the loophole. And is that really going to sway the legislature? I don't know. But I think having all of the constituents be able to voice their opinion, depending on the margin that this passes by or loses by, I think it's going to send a message.
And I know in a lot of communities too, Marshfield was one recently where they just said we need to get public education on this matter as well. Something just because not a lot of people may know about this loophole or how it does, as you mentioned, hurt the city. So just in your best words, just kind of explain to people maybe just what this means and why it's important that they educate themselves on this question in this referendum.
And that was brought up numerous times through committee, and I think even at council when we approved this referendum. Educating the public is going to be key, because it is it's a lot of legal stuff. You don't need to know all the rules, but you need to know that when your property is assessed by the city, you can appeal to the Board of Public Works, and if your appeal doesn't go anywhere there, you can take this to court, and that's what the big box stores are doing. We had Walmart in Merrill. They challenged their assessment, and the assessor made a deal with them that I think he cut it by 10%, kind of like a settlement in a way, because we didn't want to end up in court. and the issue with a lot of these is that the big box stores have been winning in court, and that's why we just really don't want to go there. The courts, obviously, they apply the law, so if they're applying the law and these big box stores keep winning, then the law needs to be changed, and that's why we're trying to pressure the legislature. There's a lot of obscurity in like the phrase dark store. The best way I can put that is, imagine a closed, rundown, 20-year-old building. You look at it, there's no lights on, it's dark, it's empty. That's, I believe, where the name came from, because these box stores are building a brand new building filled with merchandise, all the latest construction methods, and all the bells and whistles, and then they're trying to claim that their new building is comparable to that old building, because with assessments you need comparables. It's that way for any property, and to point at an old rundown store and say, see, that land, that property's only worth this much, our land and property's only worth that much. I don't see how that has been winning in court. That's something I haven't really gotten a good answer for yet, because it seems obvious, but they must be getting really good lawyers. So whatever part of the law is being used to make these weird comps work, it needs to be fixed.
So, and remind us again, this is a non-binding referendum, so this is just, again, a straw poll to the state legislature about what the public feels on this, right?
A lot of times in government, representatives will argue with each other. It's, well, my constituents want this, well, mine want this, and I don't think mine want what yours want. And there's really no way to answer what all the people think unless you poll everyone, and we can do that by putting the question right on a ballot. So it's a yes or no question. It's, I don't remember the exact language of ours, but the gist of it is, would you support closing the dark store loophole? Yes or no? I'll be voting yes.
All right. Well, there we go. We've got the endorsement of the mayor on that. Derek, just in the couple minutes that we have left, again, we talked about it. You had a lot of things that you wanted to get pushed through in possibly just one term. Is that correct, as mayor up there in Merrill?
Yeah.
How do you feel you're doing so far?
I'm my biggest critic, so shaky still. I feel like I'm growing into it. I still stay up late at night thinking about a lot of things, but it's not as bad as it was. I get some sleep now. The one-term thing, I don't know if we talked about it last time.
I don't think we did, no.
So, and it came up with the previous, the administrator stuff a few weeks ago again. I don't want people to think, well, number one, I think the mayor position needs to be full-time again. I think that because right now being a part-time position, it limits the pool of candidates. A lot of people just can't make part-time work. If it was full-time, they could make that work. They need that
stability.
Yeah, exactly.
If you will. Yeah.
And I would expect that it has health insurance and the benefits that most city employees receive. And that being said, I don't want people to think that I'm doing this so that I can run next term with the incumbent advantage and then basically create my own job that I'm stepping into. So just to shut that whole argument down, I'm not running again. I'm hoping that we can make the mayor position full-time again, and it's not a priority right now, but towards the end of my term, have it set up so that when my term expires, the next mayor is gonna be a full-time mayor. Along the way, I can't just throw the hammer down and make this happen.
Yeah.
I've seen some interesting kind of halfway points getting to that point, I want to say Sun Prairie, but I don't think that's right. There was a city that they left it an option to the candidate, so you could run for the mayor position. Say you're going to be running. Say I want to be a full-time mayor, and run that way, or say I want to be a part-time mayor, or maybe the candidate says, "Let me get into office and then I'll decide." And the requirement is if they're a full-time mayor, they have to log their hours.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're only paying them part-time, and if you are paying them full-time, there's a lot of transparency there of what is the mayor doing every week to complete his 40 hours. And I thought that was a cool compromise. I could talk more about it, but
Right.
like I said, probably 3 years out at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a long-term goal. And give me one more. We've already mentioned the skate park. How about one more of your short-term goals then? Of something for the next 6 to 7, 8 months, maybe.
So last time I mentioned I wanted to get Merrill a city flag.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking at how other cities have gone about that. Usually there's some sort of subcommittee that will open up design applications from a start date to an end date, have some way for people to submit designs, and then a committee will likely narrow it down to, 5 finalists. Seems pretty usual. And then there's another round of voting then where people will vote on the 5, and then the city council would have final say of approving a flag design or not. That seems to be the usual way that most cities do it. I'm kind of mulling over who should serve on the subcommittee. Well, should it be a subcommittee, or should they recommend it to a standing committee that we currently have? Who would fit? Because it's not going to be water and sewer, likely. It's not going to be, maybe Board of Public Works, City Plan Commission, so I'll be having that conversation with aldermen and city officials and seeing how we want to go about this. But I think it's kind of getting time now. I think with school coming back in, there's a new energy in the air. Sports are going to be going and stuff, and I just really think it's important for everyone in Merrill to be able to have a little emblem, like with the flag. One of the cities I was reading about, they passed this flag design, and then they had a photo contest, like where can you go that summer and wave our city flag, and it was a huge thing on social media for their area, because you had people going on vacation to far off lands, and there they are with the city flag, and that just really it builds pride. It makes you feel like, yeah, people like living where I live, and we're all citizens together.
Yeah.
I think a lot of good would come from that.
We'll wish you all the best with that, and again, all the best with what's to come here in the next few years. We'll look forward to chatting with you again in a couple of months. Thanks for the time today.
Yeah, it's glad to be back.